With the UK builders merchant sector undergoing a profound transformation, the merchant branch of the future is no longer just a stock holding location. It's evolving into a digitally integrated customer-centric hub that blends physical convenience with cutting-edge technology and expert advice. This roundtable is designed to uncover practical strategies and insights that will help shape the next generation of merchant branches where technology, sustainability and customer experience converge. This debate will feature in BMN's July-August edition, as well as the websites and on social media feeds around that time. The discussion, as you will see, is being videoed and recorded, and all comment treated as on the record. So if anyone wants to say something that is not on the record, please let me know. Before we start, I think it'd be great if we can go around the table and just introduce ourselves and give the reason for attending today's debate. So I'll start down there, Michael.
Yes, I'm Michael Kirkham. I'm Senior Product Manager at Epicor, look after distribution and building supply for International. And so here's one of the team, obviously in conjunction with yourselves. So I'm here to answer some questions.
Lovely.
Edgar Aponte, retired CEO for Excel UK and ex-president of Platt Electric in the USA, which was a electrical wholesaling business in the USA, obviously electrical wholesaling business in the UK. Ran a similar business on both sides of the pond with using technology and no technology, and the similarities and dissimilarities. Here to share some insights on what I've seen, and I was invited to come, so that's why I'm here.
Always a bonus. So, okay, Christine.
I'm Christine Jones. I'm the Managing Director of the Joseph Parr Group of Builders Merchants, which is 7 companies all under the same banner. I am here because I've probably been in the industry a long time and I was invited.
Lovely. Jonathan.
I am Jonathan Collier, Managing Director of Monument Tools. We design, manufacture and market professional quality plumbing tools, roofing tools, drainage tools, and we sell to builders merchants, and I too was invited.
It's a common theme about it. Wait till we find the person that's not invited.
Go on, James.
Hi, I'm James Shorten. I'm the e-commerce and digital manager at Lawson's. Lawson's is one of the largest independent builders merchant in London and the South East. 7 brands in the group now, with a network of 35 branches. My day-to-day role is sort of the managing and delivering the strategy around e-commerce and digital throughout the group. And actually my boss was invited, but he couldn't get here, so I'm here.
I'm Ethel Manning. I'm the Finance Director of Allsworth Timber. I too was invited, but I would like to square the circle between technology and the average builder and see how we can cater for him going forward.
Okay.
Ed Parlato from Brown's Builders Merchants, we're all independent based in Derby. Pretty sort of early on our journey for some of this sort of tech stuff. We do quite well with the kind of traditional customer relationships and things like that. I suppose that's what I'm looking at, is to come here and steal ideas for how we can do that stuff better. You know, give all our staff a little bit of extra time, I think is what I'm looking for.
Okay. Stealing's fine.
Yeah, my name is Dimitris Akelis. I'm co-founder of 3 businesses within the merchant sector. One is MGN Builders Merchants, which is a traditional merchant, currently 35 million revenue per annum. Then the second business is Building Materials Wholesale, which is the pure online-only retailer, currently 15 million revenue business. And I also have the panel delivery company, which is a specialist sheet material distributor, and that's 12 million revenue business. And I think I was invited here to kind of bring my point of view in the debate, where I don't think that one business can serve all the customer journeys. You have to have multiple businesses for that, and I'm going to try to stick to that point of view from my side.
Thanks very much. And I'm Adam Lee. I'm the sales manager for the UK for distribution and building supply at Epicor Software. We're a fairly large, broad-based ERP and software provider with a specialism in particular verticals, so either manufacturing, customers or people representing the manufacturing sector today here, or distribution wholesale, so with Jonathan, who is one of the suppliers, customers in that space, and then a merchant product platform where Ather Manning is using that. So we're here to really, I guess, just understand better a cross-section of the industry, what people might need from software, but I do think that the branch of the future has taken on a bit of a life of its own in terms of a strapline that people have recycled and used a few times, and for me it's, I think, trying to steer it a little bit away from technology. I know that will probably not be what you'd expect from a software guy, but to just try and understand a bit more about the physical, what the actual branch needs, and then maybe provide technological solutions to support that, because sometimes I find these discussions head towards an e-commerce kind of sort of route multi-channel, and I'm more interested in the human side of it, I think, for the purposes of this.
Okay, thank you all. Right, just want you to feel free to just openly talk, share things, steal things. It's all about listening and learning from each other's experiences. So we can try and stick to 2 hours. I know everybody wants to talk, but I think after 2 hours, I think people will be quite hungry and they've had enough. All right, so we could probably keep going all afternoon as well, but 2 hours is fine. Okay, so I've got the list of questions, and then we'll have a conclusion at the end where I'd like everybody to give me their takeaways from what they've got from today, and how it can be used in the future, really, and see where we're at. So, first question. How are merchants adapting to changing trade customer expectations? So, can I have this from a company point of view and a wider industry perspective? So what is your company doing to help customers and answer their needs in all the branch of the future criteria? And then what have you seen from the wider industry that you can learn from or share with other people? So does anyone want to kick off with that question?
Can you repeat the question for me, Tim?
Yep. How are merchants adapting to changing trade customer expectations? So from a personal point of view, that's within your own business, and also what are you seeing within the wider industry?
I'll take a stab at answering that. The customer isn't necessarily changing. The customer has the same needs. The question is, how do we help the customer be more productive? Obviously, start with the customer first when you want to decide what is it you want your branch or your merchant to do. The biggest challenge in our industry, at least in the electrical side, was everybody hated the phrase, "Where's my material?" Step one, where is it? What part of the journey is it in? Is it in the warehouse? Is it in the truck? Is it back ordered? And so the underlying phrase is, where's my material, has to be eliminated. So you want to improve the customer experience, make that where they're part of that. There's lots of people, Domino's Pizza is probably the best at it. They're phenomenal telling you the pizza's in the oven, the pizza's in the box, the pizza's being delivered. How do we bring that experience to the customer? And the technology's there now. Real simple bolt-on applications that can bolt onto your ERP that can sort of share that. The second challenge that we were always still trying to solve is the how. How much is it? And how much does it weigh? What are the specs associated? So it's the how part of it, which how do you make it really easy for the customer to have those answers? Well, they had to be called. I'll go back to where's my material. Just think about the number of phone calls that occur every day into a branch to solve that. Where am I going to get it? What's the lead time? What's the backlog? It is a cluster of phone calls internally and externally to do that. Not only calls inside the branch, but calls to the suppliers. You got to find a way to eliminate that. Simple technology and track and trace can do that. Simple API feeds with the manufacturers can give you that information. So linked in the Schneider API, you have access to their inventory portals. Linked into a track and trace system, Again, you haven't changed anything. You're still trading the same way with the customer, but information is now freely available to them. Customers don't want to go to a website to find out where the material is. They want to know on their phone, on their smartphone, on the job site, this is where my material is. So I go back to the, where's my material, and then how. And the last thing that I said, starting from what's happening to the customer, is how do we help the customer bill for everything they install? Many of our customers grab material, they install it, don't always bill for everything they need or they've used. So how do we, in a sense, how does a branch help the customer ensure they buy the right material, they get the quantity they need, but more importantly, they actually invoice for what they install? Sounds like a simple problem, but it's the biggest problem. There's been surveys that anywhere from 5 to 15% what's installed is not billed for. So all of a sudden you got a customer that's being unproductive, you got a customer that's not billing for everything they're doing, and you're sitting at a branch wanting more of that customer's business, and they're not going to be as profitable as they should be. So how is a branch adapting? Think about how do you make the customer more productive? How do you save them time? How do you make their experience better? So they can have people on the job site working rather than wondering when they're going to have material. That's sort of the first step of how do you adapt to the change of the customer. They're not changing. They just want more information, better information, and they want it on their smartphone on WhatsApp or text, not an email.
Yeah, I'd agree with that in terms of they're no longer benchmarking their customer experience in the network. Branch to branch, merchant to merchant. What they're doing is they're benchmarking it against their everyday digital consumer experience. So linking that to looking at their phone, if they go anywhere, they know where the stock is. And actually, we're implementing live stock into our website, going down that e-commerce route. And actually, we're just trying to remove the friction at every point of their journey. They want to know where stuff is. They want to know how quickly it's going to be there, and you want to be communicated with as effectively as possible. And like you said, the requirements aren't changing, but how they want that information is changing. So we are creating as many touch points throughout our user journey to communicate with the customers where their goods are, how long it's going to take, and what the price is. And actually, I think as an industry, particularly in the merchant world, we're not particularly up to speed with it. And I think that discrepancy between where everyone else is in terms of consumer and retail and where we are is causing a problem, because I sit next to a sales team. They're constantly getting phone calls saying, I was told, where's my stuff? I thought it was going to be there. I've turned up to the branch, it's not there. It said it was going to be there. So what we're doing is, yes, front end, we're really trying to deliver that customer experience and remove the friction. But ultimately, we're having to think operationally how we can make it smooth and how we can be as transparent as possible. So from an e-commerce perspective where I am, I think there's a real lag, and it's not syncing up between the growth of the online side and the digital nature of the business and our operations in branch. And we really need to sync that up and make that as efficient as possible, because ultimately that will improve the end user experience.
I think all these things come at a cost.
Absolutely.
That's the only problem. We're used to placing an order with Amazon, with Vinted, with whatever, and you get 6 texts every stage of the way. Even the Royal Mail now are up there with every single message. You get every single time that moves, you get a message. And the consumers, because at the end of the day, that's what our customers are. Our consumers expect that from us as well. And the problem is, for the industry, this costs money. Every time they send a text, it costs them money. And that comes off our bottom line. And at this moment in time, this is a really difficult time to trade. Margins, I was saying this 2 years ago, our overheads are up, our margins are reduced. It's a perfect storm, and it's just got worse. We're all, I'm a merchant, you've got 35, I've got 14, you've got 3, you've got
19.
Okay, so the expectations on you are less than us. Not from your customers, but how much money you can spend on this technology. That's the difference. This technology costs money,
And when
and
somebody
we've
says,
got to get
like,
used to that.
because when your customer says to you, "Oh, why don't you send me a text beforehand?" and you go, you don't really understand like the amount that goes into
Loading the vehicle,
There's stuff that has to go right from 10 people have to do something correctly in terms of packing it correctly and making sure that journey of that stock is updated for you to get those updates. And I'm lucky to get 2 parts of that 100% correct every single time. I'm not necessarily getting 10 parts of it correct.
And the customer's expectations are the same as Amazon. That is part of the problem.
Yeah.
We are, as an industry, slow for this because we're not Amazon. Our products weigh so much more. Our products are physically bigger. It takes longer to sort this out. We can't just put it in an envelope. I know electrical stuff, but mostly the stuff we sell is big.
Size of this table.
Yeah, it's big.
But you're right about the costs, and I would argue that technology, as a business owner, it's frightening because there's a lot of choices of what you could spend money on. You could spend millions without any payback.
Literally.
And you're thinking, where do I want to spend money? If I could spend $5 million on ERP, $1 million on this. Oh, by the way, and another $500,000 on AI.
Definitely.
Without knowing where the return is.
Yeah.
I looked at it from the standpoint when we looked at where the material is. It was going to cost me $1 million to put that in, to tell the customer where the material was, to give them a text, to actually show a route they could click on and go, here's the van. But the way we paid for it is we had a series of customers that were professionals at not paying us because of proof of deliveries. And so the technology allowed us to digitize a proof of delivery that says, oh, no, here's a picture of it. It's right there on your porch. Here's a link for it. And the reduction in the proof of delivery queries paid for the track and trace technology, so it was under your payback. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to afford it. So there is technology that's an expensive nature, but there's also some technology that you could have an ROI of under a year if it's applied right. And in our case, my number one goal was getting rid of where the hell is the material and giving the customer power for them to go, oh yeah, here it is. It's right there. It's on at 8:41. He's going to be here at 11 o'clock. But there are millions of other things you could spend money on. And I agree. Where do you pick your poison? Where do you want to spend money on? Because Amazon is, obviously they have unlimited cash and sophisticated warehouse systems, sophisticated predictive analytical systems, the best data in the world. They'd like to get in our business, but they can't because of the lack of knowledge and the lack of the relationship. But supply chain wise, they're phenomenal. And so it's one of those.
I think it's the physicality of the products we sell. Otherwise, they'd be in.
Just supporting what you're saying, whilst it'd be awesome to get to that end goal where the customer can almost track your delivery vehicle, sometimes he just needs to know it's on the truck today. And you don't really need a lot of technology behind just achieving that with a short SMS message or a WhatsApp message. You can just start off
but just set
at
that
the basics.
up. You still need the same infrastructure. You still need the same infrastructure, whether you send a message every time it sneezes and moves and is packed and is on the wagon and is out the door and it's on the A41. The same technology, it still costs you the same amount of money.
To some extent, that's where ethical comes into play. It's a bit of a shameless plug, but we provide very deep, specific systems for these types of industries, rather than trying to be all things to all people and generic, in which case you probably then do need to spend a lot of money tailoring and bending and twisting. So what we try to do is sort of home in on a particular demographic and then give you that end-to-end for an affordable, mid-market kind of price point. But not kind of underestimating that there's an implementation piece and there's an adoption piece. And, we find generally that where the customer, your end customer, is changing their behaviour, there is a lag. You either need good technical people within your business, even with great tools and software, to be able to move at the same speed that ultimately your customer in the market is taking it. But certainly that where's my stuff, or being able to see that, send out messages, or probably integrate something from a website through to a branch to do a click and collect, or a buy online and pick up in store type of thing. Those principles are all and have been there for a while, but it's the ability of the not very large kind of company to then implement and prove that out. There's definitely a bit of friction in that.
I think I'll say the proof of delivery piece is if those drivers they're the ones who are nervous about, well, what picture am I taking or whatever. The first time where they're protected, where they say this is what I delivered and there was no damage on it, and the customer's claiming there is damage on it, the drivers that are on board with it then, because they know that actually it's not Big Brother on the driver, because it's bringing the staff along as well.
Yeah.
When you start changing that behaviour,
but the drivers themselves are receiving that information from Amazon, etc.
Yeah.
So the expectation is we just take a photo of the stuff. Everyone does it now. We do it. You have to do it.
Yeah.
It's connecting all that together at a reasonable cost to our businesses.
I think, Christine, you mentioned as well that customers are nowadays expecting from us Amazon type of service in terms of the speed. They want fast, but also bulky materials. But I think the builders actually don't want fast, they want predictable in a way, because in my experience, in my view, if the merchant can deliver within the guaranteed 4-hour slot, he would beat the merchant who delivers one day within 2 hours and another day within 8 hours.
Yeah.
So I think the builders want the predictability rather than the super fast speed of Amazon level.
I agree. Yeah. They want to know it's coming Friday morning. That will be acceptable. To us at the moment, that's the information that we're getting back from our customers. As long as it's Friday morning, Friday afternoon, Thursday morning, they will accept that time span. But it's communication.
Yeah.
The big thing is communication. But communication isn't free.
I think Ed implemented recently the Potfather, right?
Yeah. So we've put that in.
That's what we use.
Yeah. So that's what you use. We've got, because you can use it to all different types of level. It depends how much information you've got in your system, because it'll auto generate your routes as well, which is obviously that's like a big cost saving thing.
Yeah.
It's like, I suppose for every merchant, like their second most expensive thing is their transport after the pay. Yeah, and if you can reduce the number of drops, it's all right saying Amazon, but they've got 30 blokes with a Vauxhall that's got 400 parcels in it. We've got 2 drops on the back of a massive lorry that's so much more expensive to run and get out there. So that's like a big part of Podfather for us.
How long have you added running?
Probably about a year, but because of the bulk of materials and the information that needs in, we've not quite got the automation right there, because I can put in that my sheets of PIR weigh nothing, but it will try and load up 500 sheets of it, and it's like, no, there's not enough space for that, so you have to get into your volumetrics and
but
stuff
does your
like
system
that.
sends out all these automated messages and stuff like that when deliveries come
Yeah,
in?
so as long as the salesman has taken a mobile phone number or an email address, which is like the other side of it, is we've not taken a phone number. How are we meant to know when we get there? As long as they do that, it will automatically
Can I
send
share with you a classic engagement story or change management story? We implemented it, and we had the mobile numbers of our customers, but we left it up to the employee to turn it on or off. They could say, hey, just click for the text system to be sent to the customer. And after the first 30 days, 66% said the customer doesn't need that information. I said, oh, that's interesting. But 33% turned it on, and feedback was very positive. Hey, customers like to know that the material will be here between 10:30 and 11, and the name of the driver is Steve, and here's where he's at. So 30 days later, it went to 50%. So now after 60 days, half employees said, now our customers don't need that. So it was a classic change management where the employees said, they don't need it, a little bit of a threat to themselves, or that's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
When they could be spending time doing other things, doing quotes, solving problems, rather than calling the driver every 15 minutes, where the hell are you?
Yeah.
90 days later, went to 70%. 120 days later, went to 90%. And ultimately, 6 months later, went to the high 90s. But I underestimated the length of time that technology worked, but the mindset of the employee was that no, it's not needed.
Was that like a social proof in terms of when they saw the other person who turned it on, and
Well,
when they've got so much more extra time because they're not constantly
the
answering
experience
the phone.
that I saw over the previous 5 years before I became CEO, there have been lots of technology shown to the branches that was shit. So they see, now here comes technology. What a waste of time. That's what I'm here. I got a telephone. So they looked at technology as stuff that was bleeding edge, not leading edge. Podfather was the first technology that was leading edge that worked.
Yeah.
And it was really the beginning of people becoming comfortable that technology could actually help you as an employee, as opposed to taking away my job, making me better. And I, we think about the change of the evolution of the market and our customer, but we've got a workforce or an employee that they're very cynical about tools and technology, but when it works, it goes viral. So I didn't have to. Jimmy would say, "Oh, Susie, this works," and then it went boom, 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 boom. So longer than it took to get implemented, but that was a great tool.
Yeah,
probably the best tool.
Yeah, we found it.
And then we put that led us to then now that we had that captured, we then took that same data, because now we had the mobile numbers of the customers loaded in our system for that. We put a simple CRM in place, and then we bought a voice over IP phone, so when the phone rang, it would say it's Jim from ABC.
That's right.
So that way, when the incoming call, Jim from ABC, the customers just loved us. Instead of saying the long, "Hi, this is Steve from," "Hey, Jim, what's going on?" They loved being recognized like they were special, and all it was, it started with that Podfather, because we had to capture the phone number. Once we captured the phone number and put it in the CRM, we'd put a simple voice over IP phone, which took that and then would ring, and we'd go, "Oh, this is Steve from," and it changed customer service, and the employees loved that, because if they missed a call, they would say, "You missed a call from Steve," and they could call Steve right back. So anyway.
We have the same feature as well in our phone system. What happens when we call the customer, he'll be like, "How do you know me? How do you know it's me?" Like, have you recorded someone? We say, "Yeah, the system recognizes your name." Because normally they would call up regarding the order. Let's say they place the order online, they call up. We know their name because the system links the name against the phone number in the order. And so we say, "Hi, Jim." He'd be like, "Whoa, how do you know?" And it's like a wall effect.
But it makes a difference. Customers have choices to buy from. If they can feel like they're calling their friend, and they're not worried about when they're going to get the material, then it's about life and their kids and relationships. It changes the dynamics, but one step led to one building block of technology, and there's many other steps, but I always go back to what makes the customer experience better, and how does technology improve that. And I'm glad you tried that. That's a great tool.
It's really good. I mean, this is sort of completely off track of technology. Like, one of the big things that we did when we opened a sort of trade orientated branch, so we used to have sort of a trade and retail split branch, and then we got a particularly trade orientated one, and we were opening the gates at 7:30, and there'd be 8 vans outside waiting to come in, and it took a little bit of convincing, but eventually we sort of just moved the opening time to 7 o'clock, and that's not like technology or anything like that. It was just, we were rocking up at work and going, "Oh, all these people are sat here waiting. If we just opened half an hour early, they'd be in and gone, and more people would be able to get in, there'd be less of a rush."
If you could manage the labor, that was one of the best winning strategies our branches had. So much so that we had branches that moved from 7:30 to 7, from 7 to 6:30. We have branches that open at 6. We have branches in London that now open at 5:30.
Oh, wow.
So it's a function of the London because of the traffic, but opening hours made a huge difference.
It did make a big difference. Like, it was just noticing that they were sat outside just sort of waiting for us to open. They obviously wanted to shop with us, but...
And that's the thing we're talking here about, expectations of customers' needs. Technology is not. necessarily the answer. People want to deal with people, and that will not change despite the way the world is evolving. People still want to deal with people.
But if the technology could save that employee time, they could spend more time with their customers. In other words, if they're back off, if they're spending all this time going through paper and looking up the forms and this, how does technology allow that employee to spend more time with the customer, being people to people? And I don't know, it's one of those strange things where technology won't replace that dialogue, but how do I give you more time for that dialogue? Right? It's one of those, it's almost, people have it backwards. People think, oh, the customers are going to go on a website, he's going to spend 25 minutes, he's going to pick his product. No, he wants to call you, but he wants to make that productive, and you want to be able to process that order without having to waste 2 hours looking up prices, looking up where am I going to ship it from, how am I going to ship it to you, oh my God, how do I package it, what's their preferences, having that technology that could save time. Because our industry, as a rule of thumb, I'm speaking for the electro side, is wrought with inefficiencies. The day in the life of an employee and how much time they're spending actually talking to a customer and solving problems I always say, would shock you.
Yeah, we've got some really, really good salespeople, and they spend 50% of the time doing admin, entering orders into a computer, rather than doing the bit that actually brings in the money, which is establishing a relationship with someone, doing all that kind of stuff. That's the sort of big wins that I'm looking for. When we're looking at things like AI, it's like, right, how do we actually get our sales staff, giving them more time to sell rather than doing admin.
Giving them prompts, isn't it? It's to help them manage their days more effectively. That's what we should be using technology for.
I would say it's not necessarily technology, but the flip side for our employees, from my past history, was the quality of our data. I found our employees were losing time because they were losing the ability to search in our ERP was so painful because we didn't have data standards. When a 2-gang white socket from 5 different manufacturers was entered 5 different ways, because we were using the manufacturer's way of loading it, the abbreviations were different. WH, the letter 2, the number 2, G, GANG, so we had data that wasn't standardized. So I think the industry doesn't, we need to raise the quality of the data so in a sense you could win search so the employee finds it easier to get the right product. And so I know the merchants industry is trying to raise the quality of the data. The electrical industry spent 7 years to try to build a data pool, which is now getting pretty good, but it's about 300,000 out of 2 million. So there's a long ways to go to have the data be standardized and so rich that it's searchable through attributes. And that's why without great data, AI on poor data is poor AI. But if you got great data, you could win the search game, and the employee then feels confident, because I think bad data leads to bad customer service. One attribute off, you've shipped the wrong product, you got to return it, you got to credit it, you got to redo it. And our industry was pretty bad at data.
I'd agree with that in the sense that, going back to customer experience, the data's so poor, product-wise, sales-wise, everything. We're making a real concerted effort to standardise that data. But part of knowing what the customer wants, obviously it's all anecdotal. If you have that data at scale, you can interrogate it at scale and make insights and correct customer decisions around how you manipulate that user journey or what stock you keep. So that data point's really interesting to me, because I'd agree, in the wider industry, I don't think it's very good. Our manufacturers are all over the place. No, I'm not saying you are, but in terms of
I agree.
It's all different information, and you can't create large language models to interrogate data effectively and with large enough data sets unless it's consistent. So that's a really important development, I think, that we are seeing, but we still really need to go forward in it as an industry.
I find it really interesting how the e-commerce stuff is going to sort of change a little bit in terms of how people if you were really good at Google searching, it was all about keywords, and that's how we built e-commerce websites. So they're built on keywords, whereas everybody uses AI, and it's much more like conversational. But you can't type into any builder's merchant website at the minute, what do I need to build this? Because it will just go, why have you typed 6 words? Just type yellow sand. What you
Yeah.
Like, it just won't respond properly. Yeah. But to build out that, you need all the best data. You
need data, and I will argue, you need data, and you need the slang for the data.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody came to our branches and they always use slang. I need a Voltic, I need 2 men in a boat, I need a jelly jar, I need a truffer. What the hell is it?
A bag of dust for cement. Yeah.
Slang is different region to region in the UK.
Yeah.
So getting data and
even
having
10 miles away, it's a different words, honestly.
It is.
I support that kind of thing actually in some good ERP systems where you can have that kind of crossover between a manufacturer's code, a supplier's code, a customer's code, slang, keywords, all sorts of stuff. But it all boils down to having a good set of data and keeping it up to date, and then having a good system that can surface.
Which is a challenge.
We spent 7 years working on data, and then the problem was that the data is pretty much obsolete in 45 days because every day the manufacturers were updating characteristics. So you'd get a data sheet from a manufacturer, you go, wait a minute, how? Is this the current one? Or is the data sheet I have on my website the current one, or is it the old one? So it became like a lack of, what's the confidence level? Is this the latest Prisbia cable data sheet? Or is this the one that's 2 years old? So we're trying to convince our manufacturers.
They've just put in some new legislation in the EU, so it's got a new data sheet now.
Yeah, so we want our manufacturers to date stamp everything so that the user would go, this data sheet's 5 years old. At least we know that's the latest. Prisbia got on you that you're claiming this is the most current data sheet. But it's almost like we've worked hard to get data to win search, yet the data, it's like, I used to use a phrase, painting the Golden Gate Bridge. It took a year to go one direction, and you'd finish, you'd have to go the other direction. Data just never ends. But if you have a manufacturer that gets it, then they're obviously continuously up. I wasn't looking at you.
I wasn't even looking at you, and I felt eyes bearing down. I'm writing down data sheets.
But then if you had the data sheet discipline, man, it just saves so much time. And your ERP search tool, they can find it, and customers are allowed to say, yeah, here's the data sheet. And when they're on the job site and they're trying to install something, nothing beats, at least being able to read the data sheet now. In another 6 months, they'll put it on ChatGPT, it'll tell them, but you still need a data sheet.
And that's important as well, is if customers, I think there's a shift where customers are looking for real specialist products with certain fire ratings or whatever, and I think that data has to be correct, because if you sell them the wrong sheet and then a year down the line they come back and say, well, you sold that and it's the wrong specification, then it's going to cost you money, it costs them some money, and then that whole relationship is ruined. So that data is important from an ERP search perspective, but actually a customer front perspective.
How many of your employees were creating special items in your ERP?
Tons.
Because they couldn't find it
endless
in their database. This was horrific.
And it exists, but they just can't find it. Yeah.
Probably doing it right now.
Yeah. Special codes is insane in RAP.
But there were special codes because they couldn't find it. Because you didn't have the data set that was searchable, or you hadn't loaded. So it was, unfortunately, you got this 25% data set that shouldn't be specials, which you can't mine, you can't build inventory profiles around. And I had one employee in a branch 20 miles away creating a different part number for the same thing that they wanted. So that's why data became, and as soon as I heard the word special, I said, kiss it death.
I know,
It was lower margin, it was not predictable, it was not manageable, and all because of data, and it was really bad. So anyway, I don't know if you have that in the merchants.
Yeah, no, we do entirely, and it's difficult.
They even do it just to hide their stock away from anybody else. They'll create it as a special, and nobody knows what it is. Yeah.
You trade inventory,
change the price, change the margin.
It's how some suppliers work. You have to remember that. So and we won't do that, but there will be some of our competitors out there who will do that to deliberately distract, so that they will be able to get something into your branches.
Create a fog.
to create a box that you can't track it.
What categories had the biggest specials in your merchants world?
For us,
Yeah.
it is probably MDF
Okay.
linings, MDF mouldings,
Okay.
that sort of thing.
As is concrete.
Concrete.
Every mix, every size,
Really?
every slump, everything is a brand new code and a brand new thing and a brand new. Yeah.
Do you make your own? Do
No.
you make your own? Oh, right.
No, it's just,
You just buy your own?
yeah, just new ones from all different suppliers. So every
That's really fun.
12 different suppliers.
Ours was that. Lighting.
Yeah.
It could be literally 35 different codes for that same light. With one had a little sensor, one was a whiter light, cooler light, one had different ballast. It can't break, you know. But really, really horrific data. So, and even when the customer says, "I want to rebuy," hey, great, I want to redo that job, and half the items are specials.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I can't lie.
So,
Okay, if we can have a look at the Builders Merchants of the Future report that was put together by the BMF in October. They had 7 strategic pillars that would define the Builders Merchant of the Future, and it was all about what the customer's expecting. So if I could just run through this and then get thoughts of whether these are being delivered, how these are being implemented. So customers wanted convenience and speed. That's through lockers, click and collect. Then he wanted smart inventory, data-driven stock management. They wanted expertise and advice. So again, that is getting the balance right between what is available by going into the store and what's being available online. Omni-channel integration. They wanted more personalisation and loyalty for their customers, rewarding them for taking out accounts, etc. Customers also wanted sustainability and responsibility, so that's eco-friendly operations. They wanted an environment where they felt welcome if they were still going to the store. So they're what customers wanted. Are you seeing that within the industry, and are you offering that within your own company?
So the 7 pillars: convenience, inventory clarity, expertise, omni-channel, personalization, sustainability, and feeling welcomed. That's what you said?
Yep.
Okay.
On the convenience side,
Yep.
so I think we want to frame it slightly differently. I kind of want to push it back because, in my opinion, convenience isn't just one thing. There are different conveniences for different type of customers. Hence the reason we ended up setting up 3 different companies in a span of 10 years. But that was never the plan. When we started in 2013, we just wanted a traditional, modern merchant that would serve different customers. And we were just trying to make the best out of it. But then we realized that with a traditional merchant cost base, we actually are unable to serve an online customers who just want to deal with online. They're price sensitive, they want slightly different demands, and they aren't willing to pay the price of the traditional merchant cost base. So in 2019, we ended up setting up an online-only company that would be with a different margin, different cost bases. And then at some point along the line, we also realized that there are certain customer base that wouldn't want to trade with us in a way because their convenience was someone else. It wasn't the omni-channels, it wasn't the trade counter experience or whatever we're discussing right here right now. What they wanted was a depth of stock in one specific category. So, for instance, I'm referring now to the sheet materials category. Our traditional merchant had a limited amount of SKUs because, as we know, traditional merchant, their way is a wide range of categories, but very brief kind of category spec within it. But there were a certain set of customers who wanted a real depth, narrow but deep category presentation to them. So we ended up setting up a specialist. So what I'm trying to say is that convenience, in my view, isn't just one thing. It's different for different set of customers, different journeys. And I think when you as a merchant, whether it's a future branch, what we're discussing here, just trying to serve from the convenience perspective, customer journey, everyone, and present that convenience to every single customer group, that's just not going to work out because for everyone, convenience is a different thing. That's kind of on the convenience side. So,
So I think you're right. I was reading a report the other day about, and this was just talking about retail customers really. So in the merchant environment, you've got trade and potentially retail, depending on which way you go. So you complicated it even further. But there were like 10 categories of customer. I won't try and name them all, but it was things like people want speed, people want no interaction with people at all. They just want to do things online. There were people who were price sensitive. There were people who were more sustainable or eco or innovation sensitive. So there was just this wide range of kind of needs. So trying to be all things to all people is a very hard thing to do within your new merchant branch of the future. So it just struck me that was going to be a bit of a challenge. Lockers. I think lockers was mentioned. So we've talked about that, and we can integrate lockers, but it works for sort of small things, light side things. I think IKEA, you can get some big lockers and they open them up and you can put a bit of furniture in, but realistically you're not going to get bulk bags in lockers, or you're not going to, I wondered when you said about opening your branches early, like how many people you had to, staff it with, or whether technology can help with some of that, because if somebody turns up, and wants something at 6:30 in the morning and you don't have the guy who can drive that bit of equipment it's just an incredibly complicated set of logistics, purely because the materials are kind of bigger, bulkier, more complicated, to Demetrius's point.
I agree. I mean, we've recognised that even in our branches, our customer base at the moment, people want different things. There are people, like some of those people coming in at 7 o'clock, they want to get in and out and get onto site by 7:30, which is why it's perfect for them. But some people want to come in at sort of 9 o'clock because they've been to site, then they come and fetch some materials, and they want to kind of spend half an hour talking football and things like that with the staff. It's weird to have the sort of the customer base, because a lot of, I look at like maybe a plasterer or someone like that who works on his own all day. His like interaction is with the branch, and they see that as almost part of their social life. And he's gone into plastering not because he wants to work on his own all day. He's probably quite he's probably go to the pub and they're quite social in general. I'm making some generalisations, but they're generally quite social people, but they work on their own, which is where it works well to have recognisable faces who don't mind that they stand on the counter for 20 minutes drinking a cup of tea, and you can still get the speedy people out of the way. You've got to have your counter staff sort of switched on to that kind of different people will want different things from your level of customer service, if that makes sense.
I mean, for me, the merchant of the future, I think it's really important what we've been speaking about in terms of the best part of our business is the human interaction. As we said, it's that customer service that will always need to be there. That is the best part of our business, and why people are loyal to your brand, because they deal with people and they like coming back to you. But the branch of the future has to seamlessly integrate technology and data at every point that you can, so that end-to-end experience is perfect, but also the fact that it frees up your staff and everyone in branch and removes that friction so that they can invest all that time in account management. And if you're looking to secure that growth and brand loyalty and that customer base, that people element being freed up, as you've said, to work with those people and become friends or work on a personal level with them is for me the most important thing. Now, because we have so many requirements, you can put digital screens in branches, so if people don't want to, merchants can be quite intimidating for retail customers or certain tradespeople. They want to go in and see, they want to go up to the counter, they just want to look at a dashboard or a digital screen. Perfect. Let's see if we can use that. If it's cost effective, let's get it in. But I think it's not about putting as much tech in as possible. It's just putting the layers in that remove the friction for the customers and everyone in branch to do the best job and really be that product expert and really provide that knowledge. Because if you don't do that, then you'll fall behind in both categories, because people will be too busy doing their day-to-day operations, and you'll fall behind in the digital space. So because of those requirements, it's got to be a mix of the two. It's got to be thought out and planned. It can't just be chucking technology in and see how it goes. To your point, we found that significantly. We a couple of acquisitions in the last couple of years were very much standalone branches. We've got one in Boston and Witham. They had a really effective online business. We came in, probably changed the processes a bit too quickly to match the rest of the group, and we lost the confidence of the branch. They didn't like the online side. It was taking up all of their time, and and actually it was creating friction for everyone. And what we did was we stripped back the technology, we gave ownership back to them, and actually it's been a far more effective tool. And the growth's been exponential in both the branch and online, because a customer's calling up and they're going, oh, it's just online, whatever. They understand the online process now, and they can inform the customer. So I think, again, it's not about just chucking tech in, it's about stripping it back and really thinking what's worthwhile for the customer and the branch to really deliver growth for the future, because it's important.
I think some of the things that they're saying, it builds us merchants of the future. It's not the future, it's now. We're doing all these things now. Maybe not necessarily using all the tech available to us or that's coming downstream, but all these things we have done and do now. We have to build up loyalty, we have to have the expertise, we have to be all things to all people, to all our customers now. This isn't the future, it's now.
But also, Tim, we're talking about the branch of the future, and we're talking about all these lockers and the necessity to implement all these click and collect features. What I'm noticing in the merchant sector is that there are a lot of merchants nowadays that are trying to look to bring these lockers in and implement the click and collect, but they still operate the whole business model is still in their 1995. They haven't changed the operating model yet. They implemented the click and collect and the locker. But what does that have to do with your cost base? Has that changed, or are you still operating like 25 years ago? Because if it does, it's just this locker is just an expensive vending machine.
Yeah.
What's the point?
We might be guilty of that. Post-COVID, we found lockers and click and collect was on the rise. Since then, it's almost disappeared. People are not looking for click and collect anymore. They would rather come into the warehouse. Lockers, we don't use at all anymore. And I was surprised it was on the list of what the builders merchants looking at, because we must be out of sync with the rest of the world. It's just not our experience that customers are asking for a locker. They actually want to come inside and talk, and what we have done though is made our branches more friendly. We employ a person from outside of the industry who walked into the branch and explained how intimidating it was to come into one of our branches.
People genuinely still ask, are you open to the public?
She's
They still ask this question.
Just with a couple of clever signboards, she's changed the whole demographic of our customer base. But we're not seeing the demand for lockers. And maybe it's our product, I don't know. But even click and collect, it's pretty much non-existent at the moment. And in 2022, it was cars around the corner, queuing to get into the click and collect bays.
Is that because they know you've got the stock though, so they don't need to pre-order or faff around? They know they can just drive to
Probably,
branch
but even if
they stock.
Even when they pre-order, they still come in. They don't want to go to a click and collect bay.
Yeah.
Because they want that human interaction.
I guess.
Was that off the back of COVID?
Of COVID.
Yeah, because was that the only way they could get the goods? Were they forced down that funnel?
That's why it went up in 2020 to 22. That's why we created click and collect bays. It was on the back of COVID and the isolations. But since those hazy Halcyon days, it was good times.
Yeah, correct.
The margins were real.
Yeah.
Can I ask you, there's certain regions and certain types of customers, facility maintenance customers, that tend to do the work after hours, between 5 and 9 o'clock at night. How do you handle customers that want to pick up their material at 6 or 7 o'clock at night?
We have very few. In Kent, the typical builder will start work at 9 o'clock and finish at 3.
Okay.
He is not looking for a late night delivery or emergency trade cart delivery when he's on site. I don't know if you've had any alterations at your home. You will find that the builder won't come in
at 3 o'clock.
After 9.
Barely any of them work Fridays anymore. They start at 6:30. They want to be home at 3 on a 4-day week.
You just don't. We don't have that demand.
They're doing the wrong job. We should have been.
Elsewhere.
One of our larger branches, we did what you did, but it wasn't successful for us. We changed our hours to 6:30. And we went back to 7 because they just weren't coming in. We provided bacon butties and coffee. Expect them all to queue up at 6:30, come in, have a bacon butty while we load your vehicle, and it just didn't work for us. Now maybe that's Kent. could just be the Kentish builder?
Well, we see that. Well, I mean, we got 35 branches, some are on the south coast, some are in the middle of nowhere. Most of them are in the M25. The London branches we open much earlier, and there's variance. You could be 50 miles down the road, one opens at 6, the other's at 7. It's just what works for that branch. That's what we found.
Yeah, you've got to have staff willing to...
Yeah, precisely, yeah. Yes, yeah.
What our staff are telling us, nobody wants to come in on a Saturday.
No.
Nobody, you should close on Saturday.
That's going to get harder going forward as well, because the
So
younger
difficult.
generation don't want to...
So difficult, they really don't want to
They don't
work
want to work
Saturday.
late.
We're having all sorts of problems with, particularly like recruitment, in terms of for like hire drivers specifically, because there's loads of merchants that don't open on Saturday anymore.
Yeah.
So they're getting Monday to Friday shifts. And
If we were to start this industry now, this day and age, no one would open on a Saturday. But unfortunately, the traditional, long-standing, long-established businesses open Saturday mornings. But to get the staff to work them is very, very difficult.
it's the exact conversation I've had with our branch, where we have this debate, and I'm probably more on the case of I don't think it's working that much anymore. But again, if you were doing it the opposite way around, and you said, oh, if we open on Saturday morning, we'll lose money every time that we open because it's too many staff to you need that many of us, and everybody costs more these days because minimum wage has gone up and everything like that, and the heating costs that much, and you're doing, you get 3 trucks on the road, but then it costs them too much because they're doing pretty much one run, they're not going out twice on a Saturday
also
morning.
You need the break, the driver's hours, so you've got to get them back early, you've got them starting on Monday, so it's really complicated opening on a Saturday morning. I brought it up at a BMF regional meeting, and just as a casual, Saturday morning, and crikey, I'm sorry I started the conversation because it just became overwhelming, the information from everyone had the same problem Saturday morning.
And it's a prime example of our business setup. We've got 3 companies, 1 operates on Saturdays and 2 others don't, because the different customers, because the expectations are different. The other 2 companies' customers don't expect us to be open on Saturdays, but for a traditional merchant, we are open on Saturdays.
Do you have a showroom set up in your traditional?
In traditional merchant, yes.
Yeah, which I think is probably, that's the one thing that we always look at and go, you've probably got to keep it open on a Saturday, unfortunately, because that is a,
retail
high street, so you've got to be there when people want to shop for bathrooms and things like that.
There's availability at the weekend when probably both the couples are free as well, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, people want to actually.
Okay, so we've debated about what customers want, and this report says that you need to think a lot about the merchant branch of the future for the long-term success of the sector. So how significant is a merchant branch of the future to that success? Or it seems a lot of people around the table are saying there's a good mix. We do have people coming into the branch. It's important. It's a sector that's renowned for its networking, and so do we need the branch of the future? I suppose.
I would say so, but I think what has changed is the size of the branch. I think the days of the really small branch was numbered. Council taxes, minimum wage is put in the amount of tremendous strain. And it's great for Screwfix, they can operate on a small footprint, but a merchant needs quite a large footprint. And it's difficult for a small merchant to make ends meet.
Because the younger generation now, they want digital efficiency, don't they? So if you're looking at the history of the industry in 20, 30 years' time, all the older people, the over 55s will have retired, moved on. Young people want to come in and they just want things now. They want everything ordered, everything delivered to them. They don't want to go into a branch. So how do you get the balance right between the guys that are still coming into branch in their 50s, girls, and the youngsters who will operate in a totally different way, but they're going to be the long-term future of the industry?
Are they going to be as disorganised
as
our current customers?
Yeah.
Because our current builder customers are inherently, and I see it from plumbing customers, and tradesmen who come to our house, because Mrs. Colley is very good at spending money. They are insanely good at being incredibly disorganised, and they therefore need a merchant, and they need the immediacy of going, oh, because we've all said, someone come at 6:30, someone come at 9. They need the immediacy to go, oh, I've forgotten that, never planned that. Go down to the branch at 9 o'clock, and they have an expectation that the stock's there. And I think, therefore, that. So one of the things that Steve put in his report was around, I think, was it range, to ensure that the range is there. Yeah, the right range.
Yeah.
There is, from my perspective, as a supplier, to ensure that I make sure that you guys at merchants have the right range. I know it's light side, I know it's completely different to heavy side, but we want to make sure the right range is there, so we can point tradesmen to you, the merchants. So I think there is a need for some of it, and some of it is great, but it's not. I think it will evolve. Every business is evolved. We used to have a shop. We had 2 shops. So we started as a merchant. We now no longer have a shop, but all of a sudden we've now got a trade counter. It's not serving building materials. It's serving very niche drainage stuff. So you talk about your 3 businesses. So we've opened up a really niche piece of business that has got nothing to do with builders merchants. It's nothing to do with plumbers merchants, but it's very specific, going back to us having a shop. So I think it will evolve. If the question is, do we need it? Yes, we do, but it's not, you can't push a button and make it happen.
Yeah, 100%. And to be honest, again, from my operator's experience, so we currently, our sales for the year are 60 million. From those 60, 30 are delivered with no branch visit at all, not even once. So, but the other 30 are delivered through the branch experience. So there is a mix. But you can't switch one off and just be either fully branch on or off, online or offline. You have to deliver both. But whether you do it through one model or several business models, that's, I think, what every merchant has to answer.
I sometimes wonder whether it is an easy split between young and old, because we get told that there's this sort of branch of the future relies on a younger generation. But if we think about the passage of time, there are people of all ages going through, at all times. And I think within that as well, there are some older people who are just into technology and some people who just never will be. So I think sometimes we miss a trick if we start trying to focus a bit too much on a younger generation or an older generation. And it's really about ease of use, and it's about sort of, something that makes people enjoy or get the right price or whatever. The experience has to be what's
the only reason I sort of mentioned young and old was because it was used in one of Steve's presentations.
Yeah. No, I've heard Steve's.
And I just think it's
very binary, and
that's he refers to Davey and Bob, I think. Davey's like his new kind of young
kids on the block.
Bob's like the disorganised. He's got a picture of the guy in his van with paper and coffee cups everywhere.
But it's not that simple.
But it isn't that straightforward.
Davey's disorganised as well. Don't you worry. I've seen Davey's.
But I think having stuff, or from a merchant point of view and a technology provider, you have to be able to kind of cover all bases, really. If you're going to, depends how you want to grow, and you might want to specialise versus trying to do things for people. But I think we need to provide sets of tools and sets of options, that ultimately people can choose how they direct their business and their focus regionally or demographically or whatever. And I think sometimes reducing it down to kind of, going into store. Because I was wondering, I guess for a question with Jonathan, about new product, because obviously there's all this sort of social media and people influencing, and how do you innovate a new product into a branch network? Because unless somebody's actually going to go there and see it, use
off the record.
How does that?
So we've got I've got a new product. So we launched a product 3 years ago. We're a small manufacturer of hand tools. So our average price that we sell a product, let's say we sell 1 million units, our turnover is about 9 million quid. So our average selling price is 9 quid, which is not a lot of money. So it's quite hard for us to be a big business. We launched products for 21. We're selling about 500,000 quid's worth of it, and the merchant take-up has been absolutely dreadful. We gave it to merchants first, buying groups, plumbers, merchants, still absolutely dreadful take-up, but an absolutely amazing product. So we sell it online, amazing product. We sell it, it's available in Screwfix, it's available in Toolstation, but it wasn't as though we didn't try to push it through the merchants. The hardest thing we find with the merchants is there's a lot of you. Oh my God, there's a lot of independents. You guys have only got one plumbing branch.
Yeah,
I don't know enough about your business.
Very well. Yeah, we've got one.
So, and I know you guys, you're timber, so you're local to me. But there's an awful lot of plumbers merchants, and there's an awful lot of decision makers in that process. If I go to Screwfix, there's one decision maker, and whilst the process might take 5 years to get a new product in, at least there's one decision maker. What we found with socials is that we can launch, and we're just doing a new product launch now. So we've launched a product. 23rd of June, we've got merchants coming to see us at installer, but we're giving 6 weeks launch before that with 2 online customers. And we're trying to do it differently. So we're trying to generate demand for the product, generate awareness on socials, and then go to the merchants afterwards. Because we realised if we put the merchants at the front end, they just don't care. I mean, in the nicest of ways,
It's not that we don't care. We are led by what our customer wants. So if our customer does not ask for that, we don't stock it.
It says ask for monument on the back.
That's the bottom line.
For exactly that reason. Then what we want to try and do is make sure that those products are available in the merchants. So we're driving that pull demand through socials, but it does rely on the merchants then to stock the product. And that's kind of the bit that we still struggle with, which is, okay, we've got £500,000 worth of sales here. It's a great product. It will generate 30-40 points of margin, which is good for light side. I know what your margins are on heavy side. They're much lower than light side. But it's not an awful lot of money. And one of the problems that we have is we will get the kickback on, it's not a lot of value to us. But it's actually got a lot of profit to you guys. And if we represent 1%, we'd like to represent 2% of turnover. But when somebody offers 1% of turnover, it's like, I don't care. You want bricks, blocks, sand, cement, timber, stuff that is pound, shillings, pence. If I'm offering you 30-40 points of margin, you're like, but it's £9.
I just sell a lot of olive cutters too. To do margin.
Absolutely. But it is within the mix. It's about that convenience because they're disorganised. They want to turn up at 9 o'clock and they want to go, oh my God, I lost my pipe cutter.
Yeah.
And if you guys don't have the pipe cutters on the shelf because the stock availability is low, and some of the branch, I keep looking at you, Ed. It's only because you're sat opposite, and I know you buy our product.
Yeah.
But we've had merchants who'll turn around and go, oh, we don't do that, just go to Screwfix. And that is just the worst thing for me to hear, that you've got branch staff in merchants that are saying, go to Screwfix for light side. Because it's dragging it away, further and further away. You're telling your own customers to move to Screwfix. And that breaks my heart, because I love the merchant industry, and I love everything about the merchant industry. And I don't want your customers to go to Screwfix for light side.
You don't want our customers to go to
Is that on the record?
No. There you go.
Is that on the record or not?
I get that.
Screwfix is still a customer.
At the moment, let's keep it the other thing is that if you look at Screwfix, one of their top level things is stock availability is non-negotiable. So we have to provide stock to them. We get fined. It's an awful position to be in. But our stock availability is huge. And if you look at our out of stocks, we offer stock in 2 to 3 days. Because you were talking about you guys being out of stock. One of our wholesalers did a stock availability in merchant branches. I think it was last year, maybe in the year before. They were 40% out of stock across their whole range of tools. So you know what I'm talking about. 40% across the whole merchant network. It's dreadful. So when you've got someone coming in with your immediacy at 9 o'clock, I need a new pipe cutter, I need a drill bit, whatever it is, PTA, but you're 40% out of stock. That when you talk about the future and you want the convenience and you want the right range, that's got to change for you guys.
Right.
And that's why you need to talk to those guys, the ERP systems, because they've got systems that make that happen.
To an extent.
To an extent, but what I see, so what I know of your builders merchants product. Yes. Yes. And again, I'll stop talking in a second. But my experience of working with one particular plumbers merchant, they switched off auto replenishment. So they didn't like the auto replenishment because they decided they didn't want stock, and then they wanted cash stock, trading cash for stock. Switch off auto replen. Our sales went down by 40%.
You haven't got it, you can't sell it.
And you haven't got it, you can't sell it. And then the branch will go, oh, we don't do that, go Screwfix. And it's a horrible position to be in. We've now switched it back on, And sales have gone up by 25% because the auto replens switch back on. We've got the right number of products on peg. People come in immediately, 9 a.m. So that stock position, that stock availability is a huge point in Lightside. And you guys have helped that.
And once you've got them in the branch as well, I'd argue that, because we were talking about lockers, actually, one of our customers, he'd agreed to put some lockers on his premises, but just Amazon lockers or InPost lockers or something, nothing to do with his own product. And the reason he agreed for it, probably get some rent out of it, but was so that he had people coming to the physical location, and then he could market around these lockers that he did bathrooms, he did kitchens, and if someone's coming to pick up their Vinted or whatever, all of a sudden they realised, oh, I didn't know that, So it was a marketing opportunity to get them into the branch. And then what we should be doing better and can do better with the data is when your builder's there and he wants to buy a few things, is your guy on the counter is then going, do you need any of this? Because system's prompting, because we've sold a bunch of this attach rate stuff. And the one thing that another merchant said to me the other day, which I thought was really interesting, and we'll get Martin to try and fix this for them, was that where somebody did an anomalous purchase, so that the site address, and he's ordered a slightly different variety of brick, and the cost of having to correct that mistake was just like massive, versus if the computer could just say to the guy right at that moment, are you sure last time you had whatever different multi-buff brick or whatever, I'm going to butcher the brick range, but if he could catch it right there and then and the software can help with that, then you've got that, you surprise that person, a bit like when they're picking up the phone and you know who they are, that you've actually helped them do something better for their customer and save them a whole load of time and pain, and that'll be why they are loyal and come back to you. And it's that sort of physical branch experience and those sorts of interactions that I think would be difficult to do just on a phone or just on a...
You've also got on the back of that, guys, people... I say guys, sorry, I shouldn't be so misogynistic, I'm so terrible.
I have noticed.
Your customers walk into your branch for a reason. They walk in to buy stuff. They don't walk in there because it's 7:30 on a Tuesday morning. They're not in there to browse. And they want a cup of tea. They're in there to buy stuff. And the other thing that we see, and we did an experiment in sales trading, so we try and get our account manager to be better at selling. We went round a number of branches just to see whether there was an upsell across builders merchants branches. And I was traded down on a particular product I wanted to buy, which cost the branch 30 quid. So I said, how much is that? He said, it's 90 quid. Or there's one cheaper for 60 quid. And I went, oh, okay, I'll get that one. And that was the end of the conversation. There was no upsell. There was no sales trading. There was a significant lack of skills in selling, but also an understanding of the range. That product's manufactured by them. I'm like, not a chance. There was one customer, nobody said use the two words anything else. Not a single trade member of staff said anything else. It's the two simplest words that you can say to a customer when they walk in. There was a complete lack of understanding of our brand, because I was interested in our brand. And then, so on the back of that, we're building a training platform, which is how can we help you guys, merchants, sell. But my next thing is going to be, how the hell do I implement that? I've got 6 line groups. I've got 3,000 branches if we include the nationals. It's an incredibly difficult thing to do, and I have no idea how to do it. My sales director said, well, you're not getting my team to do it. So I'm sitting there going, I've got all this expertise, I can plonk it on YouTube, but how do I get your staff to do that? That's a hard thing, and I think a lot of suppliers are in the same kind of situation. I'd be interested to know what it's like from an electrical, to know how that works with the supply chain and the knowledge base and that knowledge transfer, because you can't just do it in ERP. Whilst ERP is great, and you can't transfer that knowledge.
Well, back down to face-to-face communication.
And that's what it's about.
You have to go to the regional meetings. You have to go to all the conferences. You have to set up a stand. You have to go and face-to-face people. We are a people industry.
We are.
Yeah. We ran a bit of a program in one of our branches whereby we went through, our whole list of suppliers. Unfortunately, we did it by value first, which is what I'll probably get to yours.
That's fine.
But we ran it as like a trade morning, which are sort of semi-popular these days, but basically we said to the staff in branch, right, you've got to go and speak to them, otherwise they're going to come up and they're going to take you in the meeting room for 2 hours and talk at you. But if you go down and talk to them while they're doing the trade morning, you know, the person coming in doesn't feel like the supplier doesn't feel like he's wasted his time. And we had lots of good feedback from the suppliers and from the staff, because they were going down for sort of 10, 15-minute bursts, which for some of the junior staff, you know, they actually need to learn the stuff and need to know what's going on. But for like some of the senior sales guys, they kind of just need to know the person. They need to know that if their customer comes in and asks them about installation in this, they need to know that they've got a business card for the person. They can go, I'm getting a really technical question here. Can you come and talk to my customer? You know, just having a name is sometimes just as important as actually doing the training, because
we're part of a buying group. Joseph Parr, we're part of a buying group, and we noticed about 2 or 3 years ago that we'd lost relationships with our suppliers because we had a procurement team in, and so the procurement team were acting as an intermediary, and so we'd lost those relationships. We're back down to, that's why I keep saying it's people. And so we noticed this, so I started doing it every 6 months. I get the procurement team in from the buying group, and then I get 4 or 5 suppliers individually, and my question is, it's not can I buy cheaper from you, which it should be really. It's how can I sell more of your stuff.
Yeah.
Because we're back down to, it's about communication, you know, and we need to be doing more trade days where, you know, we all go along. You know, we went to Birmingham and, you know, we did, there's these trade days and they're really good, but it's probably only once a year. And we probably need to have better communications with our suppliers so we can be educated in those products. Then so we can sell them.
Yeah, it's a holistic approach. You've got to look at the whole business without it being candles and things that smell nice. You've got to look at it from procurement, sales, marketing, operation, stock. The whole. That's the beautiful thing that you guys have as merchants, that you can see all of that, and it works amazingly well when it works. But if it becomes disconnected and fractured, you end up with what you have. It doesn't become a people place.
Do you know what's bothering me on the stock conversation? So we talk about this future branch and smart inventory, and often the conversation leads into getting the systems in place where they're gonna optimize your stock levels in the product range based on historic data, and the algorithm gonna bring you all these smart stock replenishment ideas and prompt you to buy correctly. But my concern is, and I think that's ultimately going to be the question to Epicor guys, is that how do you know that the merchant stock profile is right in the first place? Because this whole optimizing stock conversation is based on the historic data, but we, as merchants,
not the future.
We never capture the stock out. So the customer comes into the merchant, asks for the product isn't there. We don't capture that in any way. So all your historical data just goes back around the stock that you stock. But is it the right stock? You haven't got in your merchant branch Jonathan's product, and it's never been captured.
Yep.
So
you have your echo chamber.
Would you not compare that?
Guys would be in the roadmap of system development. Are we looking at some sort of implementation of capturing the stock outs, lost
near
sales?
misses?
Yeah, so if we look at that, we actually do have that in some of into the products. And the idea behind that is, I've got a customer wanting product A. You've got to relate to a substitute document product to product B. What you don't necessarily want is that buying a load of product B because we wanted product A. So what we do is we actually track a lost sale against that. So when I'm then looking at that from a stock profile point of view, I need to buy more A. Jonathan's got all the fun and games of that coming along.
Well, that's if you've got product A in the system, right?
Yeah, but
if you haven't got the product A in the system.
But the idea behind that as well is that, you know, we talk about specials, but in essence what we're saying there is it needs to be more like a catalogue functionality. So therefore you have all the products in there for, say, monuments. You may only stock 50 of those items or half of that range. What you need to be able to do is actually record lost sales against those items which somebody's asked for, you've put it into the system and it's actually come up and said, well, I haven't got that. And then you've recommended something else. So we're already doing that now. The issue that we've got in profile is, as we know, stock items go up and down in terms of, you've got seasonality in there, But you've also then got, as products go in and out of cycles, so if you think, light bulbs, everything going LED and all the other bits and pieces. So we've got to be able to track all those things, but that's when we're starting to use AI in those areas, because when we're placing orders for things and we've got what serviceability level do I want on some of these items, it's got to be dynamic. And the idea behind that is what you don't want to do is buy a load of stuff in January that only sells in November. The system's got to be able to handle that, and that's where the complexity of us coming in with algorithms and inventory planning and optimization. We have to do all that, and we're doing all that now. But like you said, there's a cost to that, because obviously it's an idea of where do you want that to be in that cycle.
Demetrius, two topics here. I want to talk about yours, which is the lost sale.
Yeah.
It is unbelievable how the algorithm is. We're teaching our customers what not to buy from us if we're using the past. We didn't have a lost sale mechanism in our ERP. So what we did do is about a third of our business came from quotes. So we looked at our quotes and looked at what the items were in our quotes, and we adjusted our inventory profile based on the items that kept coming over and over in our quotes that we weren't winning. And so we adjusted that based on past, and we looked at the future based on quotes. And then we asked our leaders to go ask our customers what is it we should be stocking. But there was no systematic way that our ERP could handle a lost sale.
Mm-hmm. It is a challenge.
So we use quotes because we could mine that. Oh my God, every single time they wanted a 400 amp breaker, 3-phase from Schneider, and we don't stock that. But it's coming up on 25% of our quotes. And I said, okay, now go survey your customers. Hey, what do you think about that? The second question he asked, which is about how do we train? How do you train on a new product an employee at the counter that we have a new product and this is the future benefit? And we migrated to an online training portal from a company called Blue Volt, where we could load. We ended up loading over 100,000 courses. They were all level 1, level 2 courses. And then we asked the suppliers to give us £1 for every course that employee took. They passed the test, and it went nuclear. So if a product was going to be launched, they would give us the training content in simple PowerPoint with a voice. There'd be a little test with 4 questions, and if the employee passed it, they got £1 on their account. And that sounds crazy, but then we would report that back to the manufacturer and say, by the way, 60% of our employees have completed your basic 1 training on the new product, and they've passed the test. And then we would say, go visit those branches now. So the migration over the last 10 years is we used online to get the new product information out faster. But you still needed to visit the branch, but at least you had confidence they'd taken that. And there's 10 or 20 LMS systems out there, but the one we love the most is because it had a gamification reward system. And so we were loading, I had an HR team that was loading a class a day, and it was really simple, and it allowed us to get your new products in front of all our branches, and they could take it on their counter and just see that, okay, that's great. And the classes had to be under 5 minutes long.
It's a good idea.
Could not be more than 5
Great
minutes.
idea. We've got LMS and we don't really sell it on that basis, so that's just trigger move. Fantastic.
So it really
Don't charge me for that.
You haven't got one of those.
So I think that they work both hand in hand. The biggest opportunity is new products. How do you profile stock for a new product? How do you profile stock for a lost sale? But then how do you train the employee that with the most effective training is still come to the branch at 7 o'clock in the morning and do the coffee and donuts and bacon buddies from 7 to 9, then spend 30 minutes with the staff, showing them the stuff, and then go out and visit customers. And we love that. But what gave our suppliers confidence is we would say, come to our branches. By the way, that branch has completed your level 1 training. And there was confidence from the supplier. Okay, Jimmy or Susie's completed the training, and it was a badge of honor, and it really helped kind of raise a little bit of the knowledge. And eventually, we had 14 different categories of product training based on the different types of tools, lighting, switchgear, solar, photovoltaic, EV, safety, cable. And then the employee would then, we wanted every employee to have one area of expertise in the industry. So if you want to be the cable guy, we want you to be the lighting guy, I want you to be the solar guy, I want you to be the... And we rewarded, because they got cash from taking the training. They supplement their income. We had employees that were completing, 200 to 300 courses a year. That's 200 to 300 pounds of extra income they got. And then we recognized them as the solar champion in the branch. And that helped kind of bring a culture of training a little bit, so that, in a sense, they got plenty to do. They're busy as hell, but I always said, you sell what you know. And if the employee felt like, they told us, oh, by the way, I'm the tool specialist, I'm the EV specialist, they would go, that's pretty good. And then likewise, that would go viral in the branch. And we would ask the guys in the warehouse, don't be afraid to be the cable champion, because one day you're going to be in the counter. And by the way, one day you're going to run this branch. And so why not start now? But you need to have content, which we would need from you, in 5-minute chunks with a simple test, and you load them in these systems, and my God, when they see a pound note on that, they come running for that. So anyway, that's my only thoughts.
Just your question about that you can't measure a lost sale. So, what we do is, if you're out of stock with something, I point at you as though you sell our products, but I'm pointing.
Let's use as an example 22mm pipe cutter, which I don't have in the system because I've never stocked it.
Yeah. So you don't know that you would lose sales on that because you've never sold one. So your own echo chamber says, I've never stocked this, I've never stocked this, I've never stocked this, I've never stocked this. So you've never stocked this. And if somebody said, will you come and load it on the system? You go, no, I've never sold it. We don't know about it. But I've got a whole load of data with a whole load of other merchants that says this is the best range, and it has a 22mm copper pipe cassette. And weirdly, there's a piece of maths in there that says you should have a twin pack as well, with a 15 and a 22 and a twin pack, because it's more than 2.5 times just by having a twin pack, because there's this weird thing about twin packs that I can't work out the maths. So you'd have 3 facings of a 15 and 22 and a 15 and 22 twin pack. And what we've seen is that the sales are ridiculously high for that. But that then comes back to a trusted brand. So would you take us as a trusted brand to come in and say, look, stop that, it'll work? And we've had enough experience of those at branch level to go in and go, we're putting a new range in, and people go, oh my God, I don't want that. So the trade counter guy, the procurement with its purchasing, I said guy again, sorry.
The health branch of the future is 2 men.
Guys, I have twins.
It'll be 30% women in this industry one day. I promise it will.
So I have twins, but I call them guys.
And the girls?
No, I have one of each. So it's a generic. That's my excuse.
Yeah, I don't mind guys.
Guys.
Okay.
We've been pushed back when we're trying to put in a range. But a tradesman person will come in and they'll buy it there and then, and it's at that point it's a stocked product. But that's a really hard thing to do 3,000 times across 3,000 merchants. You've got to be there, you've got to be in the branch. It's hard. We just want to shortcut that and say, this is the correct range. Just trust us.
We've implemented that across a number of stores. They said you can have either a metre run or a 3 metre run. This is what the sales will be. Take it or leave it. And we took that leap of faith, and it's been really successful. Okay, but again, you have to have that trust with the manufacturer and supplier. Otherwise, it's pointless. But
that's powerful data. That's powerful data.
Yeah.
In my example, it doesn't really work that way, for instance, and that's a real scenario. So again, sheet materials range. So we've been a traditional merchant for, let's say, 8 years before we launched sheet materials wholesale and down delivery company. And we had a traditional sheet materials range in stock in traditional merchant, which is around, 30 SKUs. Let's say you apply OSB and a bit of MDF. And we've been selling like everyone else. And we relied on the range profile from several suppliers, several importer distributors who are specialists, and they use exactly the same scenario. They said, Dimitris, buy these cheap materials, stock them in your branch because that's what everyone else does. Fair enough. Then we launched our sheet materials business, and actually we introduced a lot more products that never ever were pushed by account managers of importers and distributor companies. And there were at least 5 different categories and 25 different products that oversold the traditional merchant range. But that's because we didn't listen to the supplier who came back to us and said, well, this is what every other merchant is stocking, because every other merchant stock profile is based on the historical data of every other merchant. So ultimately then, if we would listen to that advice, we would never introduce new products.
That's
you
really
know, how do you balance that?
But then that comes down to, are you being sold products that they want to sell you, or are you stocking products that you know will sell better? And I, as a brand, I want to do what you've done, which is sell you the correct range, not the same stuff that everybody else sells. It comes down to trust and trusting the supplier to do a good job for you. It's so easy for us as brands to come in and be really lazy at selling and say, oh, here's our top 30, take our top 30. I mean, and our team go, oh, can we just have the best sellers? I'm like, no, you can't just have the best sellers. You've got to sell in the full range because there is a tail. That's why Amazon works. Amazon works because of the tail. You know, you've got that, and then that is longer, which is kind of what you're saying, that the tail potentially is bigger than the mass market in the middle. And we want to sell you the tail as well. But then it will come down to, will you be prepared to invest a few more £100 in it? Will you turn around in 6 months' time and go, oh, this hasn't sold, and we're going to send it to you back, and then we create holes in the system that it looks bad. It's a difficult process, but it should never be just based on just take the best sellers. And it frustrates me when a merchant turns around and goes,
often it is.
Give me the best sellers.
Also easier for the account manager of that supplier to just sell whatever sells quicker.
It's lazy selling. You're lazy buying,
commodity
lazy selling.
product, because that's large invoices, bam, bam, bam. You know.
And if he's being bonused on selling volume, it's easy for him. Yeah, I don't like that. I want the second part.
Can we have a little chat about how merchants can ballast digital convenience with the personalised service that you get in branch? Because I think this industry has historically been, and still is, very much people orientated. I mean, Christine, you're going on, you always say it's just people, and I agree. So how do you get the balance right between having this sort of digital convenience with still having that offering of, you know, a cup of tea and a chat in a branch? Is that eventually going to go, do we think?
No, it'll always be part of it. No.
Okay,
I mean,
so
yeah, rather than that going, I think it's just about scaling up the digital to a place where your business and branch is happy, and you're servicing the customer. But fundamentally, that customer service and the in-branch is what's special about our industry, and it will never change because that will always be part of it. It's just about scaling up the other side so that people do want to trade in another way, they can.
Digitize the things that are causing pain but don't add value.
Yeah.
Writing a credit, doing a return, receiving, shipping, doing a proof of delivery. But digitize the things so that, in a sense, employees can spend more time having that coffee, having that tea with that customer, and solving problems. I don't think, if anything, it's going to enhance the experience.
Yeah. Digitalize the boring stuff.
The boring stuff is painful, but it occupies half their time.
Does, and it's boring, and it's not.
And it means
generate anything
for your customers as well.
Exactly.
Like, they're not going to come into branch and give you the face that, you know. If you've got someone who's doing £1 million a year with you, you want them to come into branch and have FaceTime with them. So if you've got your digital side is good enough that you've saved them time to give you more FaceTime, you're going to get bigger percentage of their wallet,
if
as
they
it
can
were.
download all their invoices and all their payments and raise a query all digitally, that's what they want to do. They still want to come in and have a cup of tea and a chat, and they'll always want to do
just a conversation on the phone. Some of our guys do decent amounts without coming into branch, but it is on the phone with the salesperson.
But it's people to people.
Yeah, definitely.
We've got to do both, and we've got to do both well.
I think we need to also
ask the question, who's your customer? Who's that customer you're trying to serve? Because you rightly say there are customers that are spending a fortune with you and they will never go into the branch. There are customers that are spending fortune and are in the branch every single day. There are customers who are always transacting in the evening through your click and collect or the online portal. And there are always the ones that bring the phone and would never use your online website. So it's just who is your customer, who are you trying to serve?
Yeah, I always find with a lot of this stuff, then it goes really, really heavy on the digital. It's like you're almost trying to attract like a one-off customer to do like your locker, you click and collect, and you're trying to attract this sort of one-off sale, which is probably why it works at some of the nationals, because they'll have thousands of branches and spread about. That's fine, but for us we want relationships and return custom and credit accounts, and that's what we want. So that when you go too far towards digitalisation, you kind of lose that element. There's only so much you can invest in it, because you actually still want to be talking to those customers who are going to do high numbers rather than trying to attract 1,000 people. You want 10 customers that are going to do the same amount as those people, because you can manage them much more efficiently.
I remember going to a conference a few years ago, and the MD at the time, I don't think he's there now, Selco, was up, and he was saying, basically, he didn't care about the customers. He didn't say it quite so bluntly, but we don't give them accounts, we don't deliver, we don't do this, we don't do that. All the things they didn't do, they do them now. So guess, clearly, they weren't getting anywhere, not doing. We have to do for them.
I think it's about customer service as well, isn't it? It's that the digitalisation piece, sometimes we stray into like more sales or different kind of e-commerce kind of strategies, but it's fundamentally about customer service and making things simple and easy for the customer, so they can check their invoices, they can do sort of mundane things in their own time on a good quality kind of app. So it's not just about selling more stuff; it's about servicing the need in a good way. There was a plumber. He was on the on the tools, and he said to me that the bit that really frustrated him about the merchant was where he had terms set up for all these things, and then he bought one thing that was slightly out of where his terms were, and they whacked him with a massive price for something that he knew was just not right, and that broke the loyalty almost immediately just by that one price point piece. So being able to make sure that you're pricing your data, your account information, and anything that doesn't look quite right.
And don't lose sight of the importance of managing a line of credit like it's a long-term relationship versus Visa and MasterCard.
It's a financial kind of thing.
It's really important. We looked at credit as one of the most important lines of customer service. It had to be managed carefully so people didn't feel threatened. That will end a relationship pretty fast.
Absolutely. I mean, we've seen that a lot, actually. I mean, we've had an online trade portal where customers can see their invoices and pay off their statements. I don't know, since 2020, I think. There was never really any queries about it. No one. I mean, they used it, but it wasn't. People weren't that interested. But in the last year, particularly, by no means is it the finished product. We've upgraded it, but the interest in it is phenomenal, and the payments going through it are phenomenal. And to your point, the biggest impact we've seen is that our finance teams are no longer having to process payments and do the legwork. What they can do is have that relationship with the credit customer. And if they need a bit of extra room in a month, fine. And that's really what builds that loyalty, because it's to and fro between a business. And giving them that B2B functionality has been really effective in that the management of that. And like you say, it's such an important element of a merchant business.
Think about automating the tough stuff. Customers' line of credit's getting close to their limit, but we haven't processed their credit for £1,000 because it's material sitting in our receiving floor. So we haven't automated the credit, the credit, so we could reduce their payable, and so it's all connected. And all of a sudden, it's a line of credit, and our person says, "Oh, kiss of death. Oh, by the way, your account's on hold. Forget it."
Yeah.
So it's an art, it's a science, it's a relationship. But if you could automate that, or should digitize the things that would create pain points in that, oh my God. Well, they could apply their own cash if they wanted to.
Yep.
Or they could apply a payment with a credit. I'm going to pay this, but I'll apply this credit. Then they become their master of their credit line.
powerful.
That's the really big development that we're working on, and we're working really close with customers to actually what they want. It's proving quite difficult, but no, it's hopefully where we're going to be in the future.
I just want to say to whoever wants to become a future merchant branch, is don't try to build an app before you sort out your people, your capability, and your pricing discipline. These are the three main drivers for our trade customers. They don't want the app if your pricing discipline is incorrect, if you don't have proper stock capability, and if you aren't looking after your people who are going to look after the customer. So that's the point. Don't run like crazy into this digital optimization if you haven't sorted out the basics yet.
Well stated. Well stated.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
it says here, in contrast to that, it says here in this report, those who adapt quickly will secure long-term loyalty and growth. Those who delay risk being left behind.
I disagree. Because digital is looking through the window and seeing your unmade bed.
Yeah.
You digitize your unmade bed, you still have an unmade bed. Your pricing isn't right, your inventory isn't right. You're just telling your customers, why bother?
Mm-hmm.
So I think
you just spend a fortune on it.
you spend a fortune and your bed's still unmade.
I mean,
If you fix all that, like every single merchant, I think, is losing approximately 3 to 5 margin points every single year because they are underpricing the system, they're doing the necessary discounts, etc., etc. If you fix that, that's going to pay in a year's time the whole your digital strategy that you want to implement.
yeah, our massive thing this year has been to try and get that consistency. Obviously, we're an independent. We should be able to do it faster. You know, when nationals are trying to do, and they're trying to get 1,000 people to give out the same prices. Like we've got, 25 people who are going to be actually selling the goods. Trying to get 25 people to agree, right, if it's just someone over the phone, we don't know who they are, this is where they are, if they're...
Yeah, but that's the difference between independents and nationals. You want your staff to trade,
Yeah.
not be order processors.
No, absolutely.
So-
but trying to get them all to agree on where that trade price is
It's part of the game.
Never will,
Yeah.
It's the nature of the beast of a trader.
Trying to convince them that you don't have to go
Low.
rock bottom
No.
every single time
No.
because our prices are decent anyway. You don't have to give it away, and sometimes you are going to have to really go out and buy business. But if we don't give it away when we don't have to, we've got more room then to
To chase after that.
to go after that sort of high volume business that maybe is at a slightly lower margin. But if we're constantly giving it away at a low margin, then actually we're not going to chase that and we're going to get rid of that product because it makes nothing. When actually it should be decent.
So as far as the physical branches, health and well-being, by enhancing the branch environment for staff and customers, will that encourage more people into the branch, do you think, or do you just need to stick with what we got because it works?
I think if you care about your staff,
Yeah.
care about their well-being, not just pay lip service, you actually do care for them, they are happier people. They are happier people to deal with on the counter. They're happier on the phone. They don't trash talk you.
Yeah.
Because they're happy, because they know, I have a phrase in PARS, you're not a number. We don't have employee numbers, we've got 300 people. You're not a number to me. You're a person. I care about you individually. I've got 300 mortgages that I care about. And we very much emphasise we care for you. And that, I think, filters down to the way they deal with the customers.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It's exactly the same at Lawson's, and it has been for the whole time it's been operating. I think digitalisation is not that important. That the bit that keeps the people wanting to come to Builders Merchant and work in the sector is that people always comes first, and fundamentally that you care about your staff, and that's what Lawson's is all about and always has been about, and that's not changing anytime soon. So I think if you want to be attractive as a merchant in the future, you've got to care for people, and I know profit's important, but you've got to. People are what makes your business.
This is off the record, this bit. We had a fatality in one of our branches 2 weeks ago.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it was awful, to be honest. A very disturbed young man jumped from jumped from an aqueduct into our yard. So nothing to do with us in some respects, but our lads got involved because of course they did. They had to talk him down. And one of the lads who was 20 years old. We've obviously offered him counselling. You know, and we want to see that through. Now, it's actually nothing to do with us. There's no liability to us. There's no nothing. You know, there's not. He's been with us a week. But you want to care about your staff. You have to demonstrate.
Yeah.
In every
It's the most
sense.
important thing.
You just described your two companies' culture.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah,
Because
protect that.
because we've got to. We you know, it's not just 300 people who work for us. There's probably 2.5 people depending on that
Families,
salary.
yeah, absolutely.
So you're
Yeah.
talking about 670 people need PARS to be there.
That's your winning formula.
So we will always be there. We will make sure. But so it's all about looking after your people, and they will then look after your
That
customers.
is your absolute winning formula.
Well, let's be honest on this, actually. We understand the importance of the people. We were saying that our people build relationships with the customers, we need to look after our staff, etc. But when you look at the average salaries that the merchant sector is paying currently, yard people, trade counter people, that goes in between 25 and 35k per annum. But you expect that trade some sort of a knowledgeable, very good experts on the product. The market is underpriced. It's 100% underpriced. We are not lifting the salaries up because the market is competitive, the gross margins are thin. But we expect experts are going to work long hours, perform super well, etc. But we have a very strong imbalance, and all us as a merchant sector, I think we are very much to blame because we're not lifting that up. Because it's very competitive, the margins are thin. But our labor market is shrinking massively. We're looking at well-being and health as some sort of a soft initiative, but I think it's actually a massive operating cost that we are overlooking, because that 22-year-old who is considering whether I go and work in a merchant yard or I go and work in an Amazon warehouse or supermarket distribution center, she would pick that warehouse of Amazon or 3PL warehouse every single time, because the merchants haven't invested in the branches as heavily as the logistics companies are. Logistics companies are more attractive. They pay more, they have the climate control, they've got better lighting, they have manual handling equipment that is far better, they have, they don't have diesel forklifts anymore, it's all electrified. We're behind on that. So that 22-year-old doesn't want to apply for the work with us.
But once they're in, they never leave.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's like some sort of black hole where
and if they do, they come back.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's difficult to attract. It's difficult to sell that idea.
Can they have a career working at the 3PL? Can they have a career that can get to the counter? And from a counter, become an inside salesperson, become a salesperson, become a branch manager, become a regional manager. You can do that. You got to train the employees, but this caring and developing the people, I think the industry as a whole doesn't do a great job of recruiting people. That this is an industry where you could progress and have a career, versus obviously the sexiness of Amazon, but you can have a career, and you can
start at the bottom and work your way up to be the MD of an independent company.
And that's it's one of those
starting point, that cold, wet yard. That heavy 8x2 6-meter timber.
It's definitely a challenge. It is a challenge.
It's agreed. And where they have the Amazon warehouse is automated. You got conveyors. It's moving. Products are not the same size. Cleaner environment. Probably heated. But there's a career, and the knowledge and the product knowledge that you build through that helps you progress through that career. And then you have to teach them the soft skills, not just the product skills, but those are things that help you make a great, I always say if you could have an organization where 95% of your branch managers were homegrown and developed from within, you're going to win. But it's easy to say and hard. It takes 5 to 10 years to have 20 years to build that, because you got to start from the very bottom.
But I think it's about perception, because you think when you are in the industry, the amount of reward that you get in the form of awards with the BMF, we know our own awards, you've got all the buying groups do it as well, and just that feeling of being able to go on stage and collect a reward in front of your peers, again, we've got to get that into people's minds when they're thinking it comes to industry. I'm sure I don't know if you do awards at Amazon, but it's not going to be that sort of, you know, you're there with everybody else, you've worked really hard for 12 months and you're going away with the trophy.
I think sometimes as an industry we're a little bit too modest.
Yeah, I agree.
And we need to be shouting and banging our drum and saying, you know, how fab. I mean, I often go around and I say to people, just conferences, did you want to work in a builder's merchants when you went to school? I've not met anyone who else wants to work in a merchants. Even, you know, if family firms, they've gone, no, never wants to. So we do need to change the perception of the industry. You know, it's hard to say that, but it's true. Nobody's ever wanted
because once you're in it, you realise how fantastic it is, and the potential for growth in a career.
Potential for development.
Yeah.
But we still need to invest in the places.
Absolutely.
Massively.
100%.
The lights, the AC units.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's got to be well lit and it's got to be safe. You can't have.
But we all know, you know, I mean, I've been in the industry quite a long time, and you know, I can remember walking in the first time and the ground on the carpets, and you know, people walking with the backsides hanging off the beams, and now we've become more professional. We all have, you know, we all have uniforms, and the places are clean, and the toilets work. Things like that didn't happen 30, 40 years ago. We have moved on. So when we talk about the merchant of the future, we've moved a lot. We've developed a lot. You know, I started with hand-wrote tickets. You know, there was no computers. Things moved. They have moved considerably. And we should be proud of that. And we should be drumming our drum loud and clear that what a great industry that we are, but we're too modest.
Well, our leaders in terms of going towards net zero, I think that's something that we need to shout more about. And then as far as digitisation, I think I was at a round table and we are behind agriculture and construction, agriculture and farming as far as knowledge of digital tools. So there's a lot to learn as you know, I can't imagine in agriculture if you're out on a farm you need to have all the digital tools there for you, but you know, there is work. We're leaders in some, and we're way behind in others. And I think we need to bring us up to the same level in everything. But yeah, you're right. It's all about people. Absolutely. Okay. Just in terms of takeaways, just to conclude, because I've got 15 minutes to sort of wrap up. You all came here because you were invited. There'd have been a lot of blank seats otherwise. Can I just get your thoughts on what has been discussed today? Any sort of conclusion you've got? Anything you will take back with your companies just to share with other employees or board members or whatever? Has it been useful? Is there anything we've missed? How do we take this forward as far as, you know, just getting people prepared for branch of the future, but making sure we don't lose sight of the sort of personal side of the industry?
I took from this, and I'm sort of a bit of a sideline. I quite like that whole online training of 5 minutes. I think that was brilliant. I very unsexingly go to church on a Sunday morning, and our priest is very good, and he says it with a twinkle in his eye, I have to admit, which makes me kind of think, is he? He says, the sermon's no longer than 7 minutes. 2 minutes to tell you what I'm going to tell you, 2 minutes to give you the message, 2 minutes to sum it up again.
That's it.
And then I'll leave you with a line. You know, your mission, should you choose to accept it, is, you know, and he says with the twinkle is, who am I to speak longer than our Lord? None of the parables are longer than 7 minutes.
Have you really?
It's what he says to me, and I go, ooh, I don't know whether it's true or not, but it's such a good line.
It's true now.
Yeah, so really, genuinely, it's bite size. You know, we need to keep things short, concise.
And that's the Gen Zers.
Yeah,
they're all short.
They're very short attention spans, very short. I mean, you know, ADHD, you know, I think is more prevalent than what we realise, because people can't concentrate for more than 5 minutes. And that online training, that is insightful, and I want more of that from suppliers. That is really good.
No, I'd second that as well. As a software lens, rather than theology. We've got things in our tool bag that we already use to train people in software.
Yeah.
the idea that we could actually be using those very same tools to be providing supply, and we own manufacturer software relationships, wholesale distributor manufacturer relationships, and merchant relationships. The fact that we could use that same tools to help everybody train each other in those products, I think we're missing a massive trick there. So that's definitely
and rewarding them. McDonald's. I love these massive corporations. They've spent millions on some of this, marketing and they have the little stars when they've done the training, don't they? We all want a reward, we all want a sticker. And so I I liked that. You get £1 for every training or whatever it is, £10, whatever. I thought that was quite insightful.
If they pass the test.
£10 on the record.
Yeah. That is really good. I want more of that from suppliers. Sorry, I know it's not really digital.
The other one that I talked about was branch opening hours actually as well, because I've kind of come to this thinking more about that physical branch and what's going to be different about the branch, and we obviously spend a lot of time talking about the digital. But the idea that one of the key things that could be different is just how long it's open, how do you judge that, what tools or what technology might you need to open a branch a bit longer with maybe less people or those kinds of things. I hadn't really necessarily thought about.
I think one of the things that we've noticed is it's the ones that we've opened early, close early. So you don't need more staff. You don't necessarily, you can use the same staff but in a different way.
And I think it's a function of the geography.
We've got some right in Manchester City Centre, a bit like London.
We're city centre.
And London, we have branches now opening at 5:30 in the morning.
You would have to.
So it's just a function of the location.
Necessity.
Yeah.
The lost sale piece is important as well.
Yeah, lost sales, I mean, when I started years
It's
ago...
always lost sales. We've been talking lost sales for 40 years.
I've got to say, we used to have a book at the end of the counter, and if someone came in and asked for something, we'd write it in the book.
We had a sticky note. We'd put it on the terminal, and the manager was supposed to collect the sticky notes.
No, we looked at the book at the end of the book.
That worked for already.
Added a whiteboard on it.
Very modern. Very modern.
I'm going, this is a little bit, again, probably a little bit futuristic, but I've gone down a little bit of a rabbit hole recently looking at, AI transcription for your phone calls and things like that, and then using that to find your lost sales. So I can actually, I haven't found a good enough service to do it yet that isn't extortionate, but I keep looking at it because I think that could be, if that ever becomes sort of financially viable, where you can search through your phone calls and go, what are my customers asking for? And what haven't we got?
You can do that on your website. You can have it, chatbots. If someone's asking for something, you can capture those, what the questions are.
There are so many brilliant AI solutions that can be application specific. If you're not specific and you don't have an ROI built in, it'll waste the money. But if you pick specific things you want to use AI for, it can be brilliant. If you want to use AI to find the best price, do you want to use AI to process an order? You want to use AI to create a quote? You want to use AI to apply cash? You want to use AI to create a credit? There are 50 to 60 companies that are really application specific, where you could do proof of concepts for £5,000 and validate, does this really, because there's a lot of AI that you implement, you go, what did I get out of it?
Yeah.
And I used to tell my CFO, if it doesn't have a 6-month payback, we're not doing it. And so, but you're onto something where AI is specific to whatever's your biggest problem.
Yeah.
And in my business, I had 2 problems. One was the lack of knowledge between the 1-year employee and the 40-year employee. So we were using AI to supplement that. So we asked our manufacturers to give us the 50 questions that we kept asking them all the time. And then we loaded that in, and we took our product PIM, we bolted it onto that. And so the AI tool is starting to learn how to technically speak, so that 1-year employee could say, hey, you know what, I could help answer that. Yeah. And that costs nothing to do. We did that for £1,000, but we needed the manufacturers to give us the most frequently asked questions.
Yeah.
We loaded that in, and after about 3 months, the tool was like a 10-year inside salesperson. So it depends what you're trying to solve. So anyway,
we've just started that. It's
incredible.
So we'd transcribe everything that we've done on YouTube, all the content we've done on YouTube. We just about to transcribe it, throw it into AI, and produce something that is essentially, in a weird way, somebody said digitise me. That's awful. But to digitise that, so it is an AI project that whether it's your staff, whether it's our staff, that they've all got the same information. So we are the single point
It's brilliant
of information.
Brilliant. And when we started getting the photovoltaic, and the inside salespeople, 30 years ago, no. Then we built the portal; they could just talk into it. I got a customer in front of me. He's got a house. He wants to put a simple system. What should I say? Okay, great. Oh, okay. Okay, answer the question. Here's the next question. Okay, build me a quote. Boom. Okay. Here you go. And so that came about by getting the people give us the knowledge, and then pointed it to our PIM. Do you have a PIM in your ERP? Yeah. Then you're touchdown. You got an opportunity to really help that inside salesperson win search, but also talk about a topic they're not comfortable with, a technical topic. And anyway, I'm going on rabbit holes. So, but you're onto something with that.
Yeah, it's one of my rabbit holes that I'll go down.
But there are AI tools to do that.
Yeah, quite like one that's reasonable.
Okay, anything that has been missed? Anyone want to add anything?
I wrote
else?
down 4 things that I got out of this talk that really just gave me a big smile. Number 1, culture. Great to hear people talk about culture. Number 2, talk about saving time so people could spend more time with doing the right things. Trust. There's a lot of discussion about trust here. Trusting each other, trusting their suppliers. And the last thing is the relationship will never go away. The relationships with our customers will never be, there's not going to be a robot sitting between the customers. And so that won't change. The question is, how do you take culture, time, trust, relationship, and make it better for your branch or for your suppliers? And but I'll go back. That first one is culture, because if you get that right, it's the hardest thing to build and the easiest to lose. And most people get it wrong. So digital, a bad culture with digital is still a bad culture. Bad data, bad operating procedures, bad inventory with digital is still bad inventory and data, which is what you said.
Yeah.
Why spend the money on an app when you don't have the right processes or the right inventory? So anyway, nice chat.
Something we've kind of convinced ourselves is the merch of the future will be very much similar to what it is now, with customers calling in, coming in to speak to the branches. But I do think there's an opportunity for going more digital, because when you've got 15 customers at the counter at 10:09 in the morning, one customer comes in, he doesn't want to wait for an hour while the banter's going on. And I think that's where we do need some digital, and McDonald's is the one who's given us the example. A couple of McDonald's type terminals, just to help out the guy who wants a queue jump. And just concentrate on that customer journey. And then we could be doing more. I've looked at a couple of potential products on the market. They're all very expensive, not very eloquent, but that's where we need something digital that will help our customer experience.
Do you find that stuff difficult for us in terms of, we've got 2,000 lines?
Well, that's the problem, and that's why I haven't found a simple solution.
Yeah.
And you need the content from the supply chain.
You need the content, and maybe you only need 100 products on there just for the bag of cement. The guy who's coming just for a bag of cement wants to come in and out quickly, jump the queue.
Have you not got a website now?
Well, we've got a website, but typically this is for a builder who's walking in, coming to pick up the bag of cement, and looks at the queue of 15 people having banter and having a cup of coffee, and it's going to take an hour before he can serve. And that kind of guy we could do more for.
Good shot.
With a quick 3-touch on the screen.
Screwfix are quite good at that.
Well, they are super good at that.
You think self-checkout, like equipment, would work in merchant? And we get asked about that occasionally. Some of the North American customers are trialling some of those things. But I've always wondered whether in the UK, that idea of having a self-checkout option for a builder's merchant would be worthwhile.
I don't know if it will work, but I can see I would want to use one if I
Give it a
walked
try.
into our own branch at 9 in the morning and there were 5 people talking rubbish about the football last night. I just want my bag of cement, my team lost, and get out. But we haven't found the product yet.
You could have talked to one place. You could have talked to NMBS one place. I'm sure that's something they can build on the back of what's
Yeah,
going
I
on.
haven't been impressed with one place, but potentially that's off the record.
Do you know what? I also think that we're running slightly ahead with all these system implementation and different channels, creating that omni-channel for the customers, ahead of how our work charts and compensation to the staff actually looks in the reality. And I'm now thinking, we want to introduce the click and collect, or we want to redirect some of the orders through the online platform, but we still incentivize and we pay to our trade counter staff for, I don't know how many orders they process. We say, well done when you process more orders than others, or your average order value is higher, or your sales per month are higher. So essentially, we kind of creating the system where it fights itself, because we're saying from the top, from the leadership level, let's redirect the orders through the website and through the trade counter. Let's create different cost or profit centers, etc. But that trade counter guy, he wants to keep that customer to himself. He doesn't want to let him go and redirect into the click and collect or the website, because he then can have less orders at the end of the month, and he'll have a conversation with the manager. We haven't addressed that in any way whatsoever on the management level so far. We're pushing all these systems.
Do you think they need to be incentivised more on sort of company total targets rather than individual, so that they're bought into that shift? What do you think?
To be honest, at this stage, I don't know what's the right answer, because I'm also against the overall goals, company goals, etc. I want to measure everyone individually.
Yeah.
So I want to measure that sales guy. But I understand that sales guy not going to let his best customer to go and transact on the platform, because that's his big customer.
Just on that, not exactly what you referred to, but we had a dilemma with passing orders. So a customer wants to keep on chain of his customers, and he will drive past one of our other branches, his sister branch, to deliver.
Jesus.
He wants that order. And we could never get them to pass the order onto a branch that's closer, to the point we would deliver next door to a sister branch. But it's his order.
We see that as well. We see that as well.
This is true. And the only way I got around that was by saying to the salesman, we will give both of you the benefit of that sale.
Or a percentage, or yeah, we
3%, but then I said, give them each 100% of it, that they both are fully
So they do the right.
sold
So
on
they do
it.
the right thing. For
So
the
they
customer.
pass the order on. The branch that's receiving the order looks after the customer as if it were their own, because both are getting the full 100% share. So I'm doubling up my turnover internally.
Tim, I don't know how you're going to put that on paper.
I'm doubling up my turnover internally, and I have to do some clever accounting entries. But that's the only way we can get them to actually
Do the right thing.
do the right thing, because they
Actually-
do want to retain their customer.
Don't you see a difference in that between the UK and North America and other territories, where in North America they'll basically tend to just be, it's that one pot of stock, and we're actually using AI to actually just pick and deliver them out, so the trucks aren't doing the distance. Whereas we tend to have a lot more branches over here in the UK,
Yes.
which are their own P&Ls, they're on their own target.
They trust me. They go branches in America. They will drive right around the branch and make a delivery.
It depends on the size, yeah.
They'll do the same thing.
Yep.
And we had the way we solved it in America is we gave 50-50 credit. The home
50-50.
branch got 50%, delivery branch got a 50%. That's the only way we were able to do it. Otherwise, they said, no, wait a minute, I'll drive from Portland, Eugene, 2 hours.
Is that because they don't have the stock, or is it?
No, it's location.
So it's because we find that, but it's purely because our core stock probably isn't the same across all our 35 branches. So I'm sure that if that branch had all the materials at Lawson's, it probably would go to them. But
how does
that's
that
never the
local
case.
branch
Yeah.
get the right material if the other branch is delivering it? So you're not going to get that. The
Yeah.
algorithm's not going to tell you.
We're using a lot of we're interrogating a lot of data around that, and actually trying to obviously there's the traditional perception of what should be stocked, but then also using the sales data and figuring it out.
What inventory has been delivered in your geographic footprint from other branches as part of your approval? So now we've talked about 3 scenarios.
Yeah.
Lost sale, quotes, feedback from our trusted partners on what should be stocked. How about what's being delivered by your other branches in your own footprint?
Yeah.
Yep.
And actually, it's a margin killer because you're spending all the fuel costs.
The fuel cost is the killer.
It's far more efficient. But again, traditionally in the merchant world, everyone gets based on their
P&L.
and that's it.
Yep.
Precisely. So again, that's another culture shift that will take time. But that's another point actually. That's a key bit for the branch of the future for me. Is utilising that technology to be able to say, well, actually, you know, that person should be doing that, or improving the efficiencies of the whole operation, so that you secure growth and margin.
Yeah. You can control it with geofencing and that sort of thing, but that's a stick rather than a reward.
It's very difficult. Thankfully, we see it. Well, I'm glad to hear that you have the same problems.
Yeah.
So
I think we all have the same problems.
Yeah, that's right. It's encouraging in some respects. Yeah.
Okay. Everyone happy?
Thank you.
Everyone all talked out? Everyone hungry? Right. Okay, thank you very much indeed. Really appreciate your time. Please carry on the conversations over lunch. And thank you all for attending.